Hi. Now let's recap. So from the last session, what we said was whenever we look through the prism of economics to try to make sense of our known world, what it produces is a picture that is usually skewed, right? A warped picture. And that's because economics by itself tends to color the picture. And we need to be mindful of the constraints and limits and the characteristics of economics as a science. Otherwise, what will happen is that we will fall into this state known as cognitive dissonance. This is a state where what you see and what you experience just doesn't square off. It's a state whereby you may open a newspaper one day and everything inside the newspaper is telling you the GDP is hunky-dory, everything is fine. But when you compare and contrast what is happening around your life, you realize that nothing is basically going your way, right? So that is one of the byproducts of interpreting what you call economic results or drivers in a very narrow way. When we fail to ask certain questions or when we take into account certain assumptions without really questioning their validity, that's when we run into these type of problems. And I think one of the things that we have to go back and ask ourselves is the whole issue of whether the Gini coefficient is an issue. Now, what to me is an issue is the fact that it's so high, and yet many of us still continue to debate whether it's an issue, is something that should provoke us or prompt us to ask what is wrong with us. Because it's a bit like a person in the cockpit of an aeroplane, and all his instruments are telling him that his airspeed is going down, he's losing altitude, and yet he doesn't seem to understand or doesn't seem to appreciate that he's in imminent danger. So to me, this is something that is very discursive. It is something that I think we should really think about. Because when you talk about the whole Gini coefficient, essentially what it is income inequality. That's all it is. Income inequality. So the question to reframe it is, and you need to reframe it, because if you don't reframe it, you won't be able to make sense of it. The question that needs to be reframed is, does income inequality subtract or does it add to a society? Is it good or is it bad for society? That's all it is. It's a very simple question. Now, in my case, I believe that it is bad, because any form of inequality is bad. Any form of system that does not promote an egalitarian way of life, where the peaks and the valleys are separated by differences and margins that are so wide, is no good. It's no good for society. Okay? Because what it does is it creates resentment, it creates enmity, and it creates a feeling of displacement. And this is something that globalization as an idea, as a school of thought, basically exasperates. It amplifies this sense of diaspora, this sense of disenfranchisement, this sense of alienation. Because what it does, on one hand, is that it streams to us all forms of images of the good life that we can enjoy, and it does so in a very seamless way, via television, via the computer, but yet it doesn't basically provide the means for us to actually gravitate towards that kind of lifestyle. And so as a result, what we see in the world is basically only a few people who are really benefiting from the whole idea of globalization. Now, if you want to know why in the West people are clamoring and they are rioting and they are saying to their governments, we do not want globalization, it is precisely because of this reason. It is because they have seen or they perceive, real or imagined, doesn't matter, the cognitive dissonance between what is presented and what they actually see. It just doesn't gel up. So anybody who tells you that this whole idea of creating an environment that promotes cognitive dissonance instead of understanding is not bad, well, I think he's got his priorities all wrong. Okay? So, in this session,